discounts anyone that deviates from that 50%, in terms of even having a perspective or being valid. So if you don't meet that norm, which is, of course, that deficit, you're deficient if you don't. And if you excel, well, then that's great. We'll accommodate you. But if you're deficit, well, no, we don't accommodate you. We fix you so that you can meet that norm. It's all a matter of the perspective that has called normalcy, that that therapy has been trained. This is your goal.
Yeah.
We have to reframe what your goal is to assist that person in becoming a functional member of society.
Hi, I'm Stacy Neustadt. I am a speech language pathologist and the CEO at Making Sense of Autism, and I'm a student of Susan.
And I'm Susan Galabach. I am a now retired occupational therapist who has worked many, many years after I discovered even my own autism with other autistic individuals. I founded Making Sense of Autism because of my passion to not only understand my brain and how it worked differently, but to try to explain what I've learned to other people so that they're more understanding and therefore more accepting and more accommodating to autistic individuals.
So our goal is to help you provide the right support without trying to fix autism, but by understanding it. So whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or just someone who wants to learn, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and join us every week. We talk about a new topic. Thanks so much for joining us today. Every week we talk about a new topic. If this topic resonates with you, make sure you hit subscribe and join our newsletter. You can find it at www.makingsenseofautism.com. So my question today is, have you ever been told, or maybe even someone else told you, that autistic people struggle with perspective taking? I remember hearing this years ago, and so we would make perspective taking goals. There was even an app that I would sometimes use where it would be a video, and I would ask my clients, what do you think that person is thinking? And I remember it always feeling kind of icky because I'm like, how do you really give a plus or minus to this? Because how do I say that what they are perceiving is wrong? Because our perspectives are all based on our own lived experiences. And so what if this actually isn't true? So today we're going to dig into one of the most persistent myths in autism, that idea that autistic people lack theory of mind or can't take another person's perspective. We're going to talk about where that idea even came from and why it doesn't hold up and what's actually going on. So Susan, please share your perspective on this whole idea that autistic individuals don't have perspective.
Excuse me. Everyone has a personal perspective because they know themselves. That's just part of everyone's development. It's just that the autistic brain develops differently. So we use that brain differently. So we perceive things from a different perspective. For me, auditory processing is confusing and overwhelming. I hear a string of words as being one word, and I can't decipher what it is. So I rely on what I see more than what I hear. And therefore, my perspective on things is going to mostly be geared toward what I observe that maybe other people don't pay as much attention to because they're paying attention to things they're hearing as well as seeing. And they're taking in both. So they're going to see things from a very different perspective just because their brain works differently. So if I don't take into account, I mean, it's like working with someone who is blind or deaf. If you don't take into account that the way they perceive things for the deaf person, they're going to rely on what they see.
Yeah.
For the blind person, they're going to rely on what they hear. And they're going to miss visual body language. And yet you're going to assume that they've read your language. Mm-hmm. Or, it comes down to perspective taking. And if you don't understand, which is why the world would be so much simpler if every brain, every person were exactly the same, thought the same way, experienced things in exactly the same way, had the same experiences growing up. All of that goes into perspective taking.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
if we can't value and appreciate the fact that other people have different perspectives because of the way their brain works, their experiences growing up, nature versus nurture, all that sort of stuff, then we're missing out on, and we misunderstand people a lot. Even neurotypicals misunderstand each other.
Oh,
They don't
absolutely.
read each other's minds as much as they think they are reading the other person's mind and making assumptions based on what they think the other person is thinking without validating or clarifying it. It becomes even bigger gap when you're talking about an autistic and non-autistic.
Yeah. And that's where that miscommunication can even happen between neurotypicals. So when we think about going back to the beginning, like that whole theory of mind concept in autism, it was research from the 1980s. I don't know if you remember, it was called the Sally Ann test. It was where a child watches a scene, a ball gets moved when one character isn't looking, and then the child's asked where the character will look for the ball. So the idea being that you can hold in your mind what someone else believes, even when you know the truth. And autistic children, on average, answered those tests differently. So the conclusion was autistic people have an impaired theory of mind, that they can't take perspective. And that's kind of where this came from, is in the 1980s. But here's what research didn't account for. Those tests were designed by neurotypical researchers using neurotypical social scripts in artificial testing environments with neurotypical children as the comparison group. So, what we're actually measuring wasn't, can this person take perspective? It was, can this person navigate a neurotypical social script in a high pressure testing situation? And that's what I feel like most social communication assessments do as well, is they look at how would a neurotypical person navigate this assessment. And even when you show videos, if you have an assessment where you're looking at videos and asking their perspective, if you are comparing that answer with how you would answer as a neurotypical or non-autistic, you really, it's not even comparable, because again, it's perspective. And so even videos where you're getting their perspective, how do you say what's right or wrong? You can't. And what information are you really going to gather? You're just going to learn about their perspective. So what is it really going to tell you in terms of qualifying them for, um, services? You can't.
Because the goal is normalcy. There isn't the bell curve, the average. I mean, there are people on either end of the fringes, but it doesn't matter. It's what the majority, that 50%, tend to do. That's what they use as a standard
Yeah.
for measuring whether you're deficient, you excel. Um, they're all based on that bell curve. Um, and it, but it discounts anyone that deviates from that 50%, in terms of even having a perspective or being valid.
Mhm.
So if you don't meet that norm, which is, of course, that deficit. You're deficient if you don't, and if you excel, well, then that's great. We'll accommodate you. But if you're deficit, well, no, we don't accommodate you. We fix you so
Right.
that you can meet that norm. It's all a matter of the perspective that has called normalcy, that um, that therapy has been trained. This is your goal.
Yeah.
We have to reframe what your goal is to assist that person in becoming a functional member of society. And how that defines it is they have to be able to function within the society in which they live. What is it they need? What's missing? What's standing in the way? What are their strengths that they can build from? That's what this framework is all about, is simply looking at where are they functionally, not in comparison to the average 50% of people outside of them, but themselves, their environment that they're in now. What do they need to navigate that environment? Not any other environment. All of our assessments are built on that individual and what they need to function in their environment with their strengths, and what they want to accomplish in life. Um, and then look at what's getting in the way and what's interfering, like the triggers.
Yeah. And that's why I love our social communication assessment, because one of the answers is actually, I don't want people to expect that of me right now. And when I give that, my clients are so excited that they can say that, because they're like, no, I am not ready for that. I don't want to do that. So, when perspective taking becomes that therapy goal framed around the deficit, we need to teach you to understand others. It really misses what is actually needed, which might be helping an individual find their own way to express what they already understand, or building those bridges between two different communication style. And so really what to do instead is, what does this look like in practice, is really first assuming competence and understanding. So before you assume someone doesn't get it, ask yourself, have I actually given them a way to show me what they know? Have I given them enough time? Have I removed the performance pressure? Have I asked them what skill do they want to learn, which is exactly what we do with our social communication assessment. So, um, I feel like with this assessment, like you said before, it's not comparing to neurotypicals. It is really giving them the power to build the skills that they want to learn.
Yeah, and you're giving them the option to not be like everybody else,
Absolutely.
to recognize themselves as themselves, not because of course she's going to say, oh yeah, I can do this, this, and this, because she doesn't want to be looked at as deficient
Yeah.
and need of fixing. Who wants those labels? You're saying, no, it's okay to be, and if you don't, that's okay. And if you say people don't, you have that option to say that.
Yes.
Whereas nobody's probably ever given them that option before.
No. So if you want access to our free, very short trial social communication assessment, the link is below. We will be releasing our full social communication course and assessment soon. So be sure to follow us and get our newsletter so you know when that course releases. And like we said today, what you'll see is not comparison to neurotypicals. What you'll get is what the individual already knows, what they want to learn, what they feel like other people need to change, and what they aren't ready for. And when you use this with our soft skills assessment, you get a holistic picture of where this individual is with social communication, not only for low support level one oral communicators. This also can be used for individuals who maybe are high support needs, and you are missing the social communication cues they're trying to give you. So again, if this resonates with you, be sure to hit subscribe so you get notification when we put out our weekly videos. And please share if you have another staff member who you feel like would benefit from this video, or your special education director, or a parent that you're working with. Please share this. So thanks for your great perspective as always, Sue.
And thank you for asking, Stacy.